Hey, this is Canute's Exploration, your topic in the podcast. You know, we have been talking a lot to many persons around the world about adversities. We try to empower and inspire our audience, those on Apple Podcasts and other audio podcast platform. You need to hear this because what we'll be talking about is adversities and people overcoming adversities, men in particular, because we grew up in societies, we in the Caribbean, even in the United States and elsewhere, you know, Europe and so on, Africa, men are taught to just keep things inside and don't talk about it. And it creates a problem. So guess what happened? We have all gone through some sort of adversities in our lives. You, I as well, many other persons, other listening, will be listening. Yes, you may be going through, you will be going through. Adversities appears to be part of life's journey. And I'm going to be talking to someone who can tell you about some of the adversities that he had gone through and how he has overcome and sort of putting you in place to overcome your adversities. I'm going to talk to a very special person. I will let him into the studio. Hey, how you doing?
Good. Doing great.
Before I say, I know it's Dominic, right?
Yes.
But how you pronounce your last name? It's not showing here on the screen, but it's Meattey.
It reads that way, but it's actually Meattey.
Oh, wow.
Dominic Meattey, yeah.
How's it spelled? I want you to spell that for me.
All right, it's spelled Meattey.
Wow. You see, I tell you more.
Yeah, I know.
All right, that's okay. At least you're with us and you're a good person. Outside of the name, we are who we are. You understand what I'm saying? And outside of how we pronounce our name. Because my name is pronounced Canute sometimes. Canute. The Spaniards pronounce it Canute, but it's Canute because it's British. That's how it is. Yeah. Hey, Dominic, we're going to be talking a lot about your adversities. But before we do that, who are you? Talk to us about who is Dominic?
I'm a small town, grew up in a small town in New Hampshire. And I faced, a lot of adversities throughout my life with, a loss of a parent, dealing with, excessive alcohol drinking, and then going through a divorce, and all that became and made me kind of where I'm at today, and a stronger, person I can bring to my family, my loved ones, my friends, and everything, and just try to put a little ripple in the world of like the good vibes and good energy out there.
I know, right? I see it. Adversities creates trends. You talk about stronger, strength through experiences. So if you have not experienced adversity, you cannot be strong for others and even strong for yourself. But what I want to know before we continue the meat of the matter, so to speak, your childhood. Tell us about your childhood. When you're growing up, what life was like.
Life was like is growing up in a small town at the end of a dirt road where it was me and my brother. He's like 13 months apart, so we're almost like they consider Irish twins or something. So we grew up, we were very close, so we always had each other. But both my parents were drug addicts at first, and they became they became clean.
Yeah.
And they stayed clean for continuous for the rest of our lives. But we grew up playing sports and everything. So I got to see, we grew up in AA meetings when we were younger. So we learned a lot about drugs and alcohol and all that stuff. So it kind of brought me to the real world very quick at a young age, because as we were running through the meetings, we're eating donuts and stuff, and you'd catch a little story that'd catch your attention. You'd be like, what was that? Oh, okay. But, so at a young age, I had a very good understanding of drugs and alcohol and the impact it could do to people and lives and stuff. Not a total grasp of it, because I never experienced it, obviously, at that age growing up. But, used a lot of that, learned from my parents, both overcoming that strength throughout sports. We were very involved in athletics, me and my brother. So we used we started the adversity from their actions of what they did, which helped us, create a great, younger, our high school and careers of athletics, which
Yeah.
helped
Yeah.
throughout our life.
It's important because important that you have said your parents had gone through this addiction, and you yourself had experienced this, and it speaks to whether it's a learned behavior, but we'll talk a little bit more about that, because your mother, right, she died at how old were you when she died?
I was just about to turn 16. So
Mm-hmm.
that was it's a big stage in every young man's life growing up where they have a mother to show them the sensitive side of trying to be in a relationship with a woman and how to show compassion and stuff like that. So I was right on the brink of where I experienced that, in my 10 to 12 age group and 13. But when I actually started getting, interested in girls and stuff, I
Yeah.
lost that part with her,
Yeah.
where, you know, granted my father did as much as he could, but still you don't get the same connection as with your mother guiding you in those, aspects of life, just to be create a good man for a woman.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was hard. I learned from other peers, but I still had that shyness where it's to be, really show connection with women, as in
Right.
public display of affection. Like, I didn't know whether to hold her hand or hug
Yeah.
her, and
Yeah, I know,
I
right?
battled with that a little bit growing up. So, I missed out on that, but it did bring me a lot closer to God.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
That brought me into a lot closer with that, with my mother passing away, but also with as much as the negativity for negative of a lot of people have with death, like with parents. I started
Yeah.
turning into a positive because I was able to share with what I experienced with other students I grew up with, and later on in life, which actually helped me kind of create where I am now, to share an experience and a story that was very painful, but how do you overcome it? Don't let
Right.
yourself that dark, hole into depression where
Mhm.
you just, plug through and keep going. And that really helped in that aspect of not falling into depression, really trying to fight through it with the
Yeah.
loss and show you the other side.
Mhm. Interesting. And you said something about your mother not being there to sort of give you some quote unquote instructions, right? Of how to deal with female. But, and it's interesting that you had said that, because I always believe that when one goes into a all male school, take for the male, all male
Yeah.
school, and you tend to not understand how to relate to females because you spend so much time per day, per week in that all male school. If you go to a school where you have a co-educated sort of thing, you would have known how to open the door, the cafeteria door for a female, and how to perhaps have lunch with a female and so on. So the mother is important as it relates to teaching us as males how to relate to female. It's ironical because we often feel like the father is the person to do that, right? Yeah.
Right.
But interestingly though, you have gone through divorce, right?
Yeah.
I am not sure what you have learned from your parents if they had also gone through divorce, because it is said psychologically that it may follow the children. But talk to us about how you deal with that divorce. So you had gotten through that divorce.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, my parents were together until my mother passed away. But for experienced divorce, it was the most. I'd probably say it felt as it was life crushing, because that's all I did want in life was a family. That's what I was creating a man to be, to have a wife and a child, which
Oh,
I did have. And I have a beautiful daughter. She's 6 years old now. And so it's been 2 years since the divorce. But the hardest parts was really understanding the love of my life. I thought that did not want to be with me anymore. So, I put a lot of pressure on myself, as it's my fault and what's wrong with me? What can I do to be better?
yeah.
And I had to go through steps and realize it's not, you can't put all the blame on yourself, because it just grows apart sometimes in a relationship. I
Right.
didn't work as hard, and neither was she. It takes both So I got, started understanding more where it wasn't just all my fault and I could only do so much. And she would have to be accepting to, want to continue a relationship. So
Right.
I got out of the big time of blaming myself, which was very hard. As a man, you go through this, you feel as if you're a loser or you're losing at life because how can I not keep a woman to be with me to be happy?
Yeah.
So that was a big internal battle. But as I got through and talked to people and because I shared again my emotions where like you were talking about in the
Right.
beginning, and we hold it in and I learned I had to get that out to
Yeah.
help become better. And I really learned more of less of it's in the beginning of a relationship when you're with somebody of where you really pursue a woman.
Yeah.
And as we get complacent, I felt myself, I was doing that. I was not being the best I could be for her, which allowed also her to go, in another direction, which I would say at the time I was hoping she would consider working on it, but it didn't go that way. And I finally came to realization that was fine. And it's probably for the best of me, even me too, where I now have to create again where I'm at myself to be there better for somebody else, to learn, to be, believe in faith of I can love again and someone will love me and everything. And the stickler still too, the whole divorce part is having a child involved in it where she wants to see both parents all the time. So dealing with that always, that took a little bit to get over, but I still kind of keep my head up and believe in God, that it's I still make the best time I can when I have time with her. And I just try not to think about the time of missing her, not being with her, because, that will bring you back down. But I just create every moment I get a chance with her to make it great. And in the times I don't have her, I think about what I'm going to do with her when I get to see her.
Right.
All good intentions of thinking, not bring around any, down, depressing thoughts, even when I'm with her, because we're just trying to have a great time as much time as we can. And, we really do that all the time in life with friends, family, and everybody. You create the little moments you have of great time, and you really try to make it impactful as you can. So that's what I try to create now with the limited time with my daughter. And it's really try to look at more as it's all blessings, and these are strengths and tests that I got put in front of me. And how do you deal with them? How are you going to sit there and take this adversity on? There's always two roads. One could be a very negative road. I could be very vindictive and everything. Or you could come out positive, really thinking analyze stuff more and just try to still just live your life right, as I like to say, alignment. You live your life right. The man's right, your life's going to be right. So take the higher road situation. That's really helped me get through the divorce. And
and that takes me to your spirituality, because you talk about that has the adversities has driven you into a spiritual lifestyle. Talk to me a bit about that.
So a big part, it's helped with always believing in God and everything, where leaving it up to faith and things happen for a reason. There's always a lot of people say our life's already planned out for us and we don't even realize it, which I do believe. And it's always a direction which way you're going to go. You always have the left and rights to go. And hopefully you learn enough to go through that. So I really believe in faith with God and everything. And then I've actually worked a lot of on internal work of myself, where I've learned through my girlfriend now, where she's very into the internal work, which I never really understood about, manifesting and all these other scenarios where naturally we kind of do it anyways, of believing in that stuff. And whether it's really what they call spirit guides or angels, archangels, how other people describe them, as a deceased family member, as in my mother, where I believe she still watches over me.
Right.
I learned a lot of this through readings and everything else. And a lot of it you end up feeling when you start getting more engaged in it, the spirit, the whole spirit world itself. I definitely believe you work on the internal part, you're going to create the greatest you to give to everybody. So yeah, I definitely, believe in God and everything in that aspect in life. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's important. And I share that with you. Look, let me say this, audience. It's very interesting that we're having this conversation, because many persons out there are having challenges, and Dominic had gone through it. He had overcome many adversities. You're listening to Canute's Exploration, your topic in the podcast. Addiction. Several addictions, basically you have experienced. Talk to us about some of those addictions and overcoming them.
So one was really, I didn't realize it. I didn't think it was a big deal, but it was like alcohol throughout my life, like going to college, doing the college thing, playing sports. It's obviously almost like a rite of passage. If you play football and like baseball at the collegiate level, it's like, oh, for you to be initiated, you got to drink, shots, drinking alcohol and everything. It's like really a man kind of thing to be accepted into one's group almost. So it really started out there. And I mean, because I waited, because I learned at a younger age, I waited until I was 21 to start drinking. So that was in the college time. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it just, looking at it now, as abusing it. I wasn't doing it really as like for fun. I mean, I was just doing it because it started becoming a lifestyle throughout college. Yeah. And I said at a younger age, when I went to college, I go, I'm only going to drink when I'm in college. But then it never stopped. And so then I just keep drinking and all the time in it. And I didn't realize it until when I stopped, that one time I was out at a dance club, and I was like, normally I'd go dance, everything like that. But when I quit drinking, I went and I was like, I feel very nervous. What am I doing here? And it felt like I needed something in my hand to drink. Yeah. And that's when I realized, I was like, wow, how much of a power that did have over me to be like where I was being myself normally prior to really drinking, where I was very outgoing and this and that. And then that became, almost like a crutch for me, where I had to do that to go out. And when that opened my eyes to it, I couldn't believe like how much, just a little bit, you don't realize little things like that. It takes you away from who you were before, in like putting that stuff, like in taking it, drinking it, whatever it may be, incorporating your life, like, right. So it took a little bit to realize the abuse of it, and also too, it does on your body, like, the health wise and everything. So yeah, the alcohol was tough, but I mean, it's definitely a lot better without it. I mean, I realize now there's no purpose for it really for me in my life. I mean, and I'm just always like, and people, I mean, the biggest thing, a lot of people always say like, oh, you could just have one or this or that. And it's like, you don't ever want to take that chance and try to have one, because it's never just one. It's like the potato chip commercial. You can't just have one. That's how I feel. So
no, I mean, I'm in psychology, and I tell you, I used to have groups, that I, do sessions with, right? You know about the 12 steps and so on, right? So I used to have 12-step sessions and so on. I'm going to ask you a bit about the 12 step as well. But was there any other addictions?
Addictions, really, I mean, it was the biggest thing was alcohol for me. Everything else, I kind of stayed away. I mean, I would get into a little bit, but nothing as serious as alcohol was for the addiction for me. That was the biggest one that I had hard.
You have gone through the 12 step. Have you?
Yeah. Me personally, I haven't, but I grew up without going, like hearing it through the meetings.
Right. Can you explain to the audience what it's like and your opinion of the 12 step? Because it is said by some persons who have had addiction challenges that it doesn't work.
I would say it definitely does work, because I've seen it firsthand growing up as a child, as seeing like my father go through the 12 steps of where it's like, you're forgiving and everything. Like the whole part of just basically forgiving is the big one. And I think that's the most actual impactful one, is because you're going around to everyone you wronged in your life, and you don't realize until you actually go say sorry to all of them, whether it was you stole from them, you cheated them, you hurt them, whether it was physically or emotionally. And then and seeing that from my father going around with him when he would do it, you could see the different change of every experience in his life, like with like that, and all the steps, gear up to a lot of that, where, I mean, it's definitely very impactful to follow those 12 steps when you're going through addiction stuff. I mean, it makes you realize, that's why there's 12 steps. It makes you realize what you're doing is not good, and it's harmful, not just to your own self, but it makes you realize how harmful it is to everyone around you that you care and love. Because when people are going through, they don't think of that. They don't think of anyone else, but themselves. Very selfish thing. So this brings you back to reality of like, as it be an offering, giving yourself to your family, your loved ones, and your people. It makes you, be back to where you were in a family aspect, or whether it was a brother, sibling, anything. But
Yeah, because it's sort of a restorative and it has a religious flavor to it as well. Some people think that it doesn't work, but it depends. Just like counseling in general, it depends on you, the counselee, right?
yeah.
Yeah. But tell me, you might have alluded to it, but your parents' addiction, right, and they're overcoming, it affects your life in a particular way. And I'm not sure if you want to clarify that, to be more specific on how it has affected your life.
At first, it was pretty, I was growing up, like as a kid, you didn't really realize. I mean, we were always, being over someone's house, getting watched and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
but then going through and they overcame their addiction, they've seen more light where, realizing at first, like, oh, why are we always with mom and dad, kind of thing. We're always getting sad on the weekends. It was like, oh, all right. But, we played as kids, you forget in like 5 minutes, so
Yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
but then as I got older and I realized that, that they both got cleaned, I was like, wow, this is awesome. And like understood more of it, which I was like, this is huge. Like, and, my father's going around speaking to a bunch of places, going to prisons and speaking, which was pretty awesome. Like to see that and hear about it. And, but, then it came back to where it took a little slide down, because then when my mother passed away because of the drugs, I was like, it was like, that was the hard part. It's like, you guys did this. And again, you don't know the effects of it. They didn't know. So that was a little hard, to take. That was the hard part of the drug situation, with both them being addicts.
Mm-hmm.
But then as I learned again too, like one of the major addiction too is like heroin. So, but they overcame that, which that's like one of the hardest like things to be addicted to overcome, because they're putting you on drugs to get off the drug. So I mean, I give them both like the most credit in the world to be able to do that for me and my brother too, which at the end of the day, like, I mean, can never thank them enough for doing that, to be the best parents they can be, which in case it was for them to be clean and, be there emotionally as much, everything they could, so. Yeah.
And I must commend you, because they have moved to being clean and have gotten clean, and you have done that as well, right? So it's not only the negative that you have so learned, I'd want to say, but you also learn the positive side. Hey, let's get clean, and I must commend you on that. So
thank you.
I know that your father and your brother, well, you and your brother was basically parented by your father, right? While he ran a business, and it makes you who you are today, I would want to think. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And he's, helped, like just seeing his adversity, like we talked about before, and everything he's done in life, raising us, where he didn't even know how to do laundry when me and my brother were like younger, when my mom passed away, because that's just not was his task in the house to do, I guess. Right. So, he learned a lot as we were both growing up, and he was doing as much as he could for us, which was awesome. And I mean, he would always show up to all our games, anything he could, having his own business and creating it into where it is now, like from it was nothing, doing that and being there for us is, amazing. And to realize it more is when I became a father, I took some of the great aspects from him, and I'm like, all right, this is what I'm going to incorporate into my life and do. But as we all are fathers or mothers, but a lot of our, parents want us to be better than they were.
Yeah.
And so I mean, there's little flaws I've seen with his, parenting or how we grew up. And I mean, I want to make it better for my daughter. So with much as the greatness he had in his life that I take and incorporate every day, I also look at a lot of the flaws he had too, which I'm grateful for, because that's going to make me a better, man and father out there. So everything he's done so far, it's like, blessing to have him, as like how he raised us and everything he did, because you could see he was keeping us on the right path and doing as much as he could to keep us, safe, protected, and also learning too by like some little mistakes too, not so overbearing. But he did a great job without the instruction manual book to read from. So
right. I would say my mother who fathered me, because my situation, it was a single parent, matrifocal single parent, but you have a patriarchal single parent situation. Two sides of the coin there. Interesting. But look, before we end this conversation, I want you to talk to those men out there in the Caribbean, in the United States, wherever, right? Who may be addicted to something now, be it drugs, be it sex, be it food, be it whatever, because addiction is not only about drugs, about alcohol, right? Talk to those young men now on the streets.
I would definitely say that, being addicted to anything out there in this world it's going to bring you down, and it's going to bring you to points of your life you don't want to go and be at, because you can feel it from your conscience above telling you, like, you got to stop. And then you just got to commit. You got to believe, have faith, and put all your loved ones, your family, your people out there, and just look at them and go, this is why I got to stop this addiction, to whatever it may be. Because again, you want to be the best for them, both health, mentally, spiritually, everything you can give to the loved ones. That's what you want to do. So with addiction to anything, you can just, when you realize it, to see it and do everything you can to stop, and be relentless at stopping it. Create the best you for everybody, all your loved ones.
Yeah. Thank you, Dominic, for coming on and sharing your experiences. It's very appreciative. Thanks for coming on Canute Exploration, your topic in the podcast.
Thank you very much.
That was Dominic, and he had shared with us his adversities, and not only sharing his adversities, but sharing with us ways to overcome. Talking to the young youths in the inner city, wherever you are, perhaps not the inner city, because it doesn't matter the social strata, right? We understand that there are going to be challenges with addiction, no matter what social class, no matter what race, no matter where you are. And it's important that you listen and share this conversation with others who you suspect or may be going through adversities, not only with drugs, but with other situations. Divorce, you heard my guest talked about that, right? And other challenges that he had in his life. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Canute's Exploration.